The carnivore text, the carnivore text. How did I get sucked into this carnivore text? The carnivore text, the carnivore text. How did I get sucked into this carnivore text? Beef, butter, bacon, eggs, eat fatty meat. Sounds great. The carnivore text, the carnivore text. How did I get sucked into this carnivore text? The carnivore text, the carnivore text. Just give it a shot and you'll be carnivore next.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Carnivore Text. I am No Carb Barb, and I, along with the High Fat Cats, who are my managers, editors, and producers, bring you another fun show. And today I am so excited to have as my guest my dear friend Laura Lynch. Hi, Laura. How are you?
I'm good, Barb. Thank you. I'm so excited to be here with you today.
Yes. So, for those of you who don't know Laura, will you please just introduce yourself, tell us who you are, what you do, all the stuff?
Okay, I'm Laura. I am a almost 4-year carnivore, and I do sit on the team with SBG, Steak and Butter Gang, and I help out there as a moderator, and I'm also doing a little coaching now. I came to carnivore a place of extreme sugar cravings, but not for real sugar, for sugar artificial sweeteners or these supposedly good for you low glycemic sweeteners. And I had been ketovore for about 6 months, had kind of gotten myself into this extreme cravings for these things, and found SBG Gang and started carnivore with them with their priming protocol that's supposed to help get rid of all cravings. And it did within days. And I'm still there almost 4 years later. I live in Tennessee. I was lucky enough to meet Barb this past spring. We were both at a Healing Humanity fundraiser in Tampa, and a mutual friend was talking to her and found out she lived in Knoxville. And I'm about, what is it, about 45 minutes, Barb, from you?
Yeah, with traffic, 45 minutes to an hour.
So we were introduced, and the rest is history. We've done a few meetups since then and traveled a little bit together, and she's a great friend, and we love sharing a good steak together too at a great restaurant in Knoxville.
Oh, yes.
So
If you're-
nice to have a carnivore buddy that close.
Yes. So if you're in Knoxville, the Copper Cellar has an amazing tomahawk steak. Highly recommend it. You might want to plan it around when Laura and I are eating there because there may not be any left. But they do have fabulous steaks. And I just want to say, yes, it was wonderful meeting Laura in Tampa, and we became fast friends. And I always joke, I think she's my sister. I don't know if she'll claim me, but I'll claim her. And I have to say also that I appreciate her being on here because she's really not sure what I'm going to say or do. This is a little frightening. And you wonder, like, why does Barb just have her friends on this show? Well, just because they're the only ones like, okay, Barb, we'll indulge you and see whatever you're going to do. But wow. And yes, I would like to go into some of the other things that you mentioned in your introduction as we go through this interview and show. But I wanted to go ahead and throw out the topic for you. So I know this is on pins and needles, like, oh gosh, what is it? Yeah. It's not too weird, I don't think. But as I was pondering what we would talk about, I really wanted to talk about, does carnivore ever get old? And, I hear a lot from people, oh my gosh, don't you get tired of eating meat and all of that? And so that's part of it that I want to talk about. But I also want to talk about, carnivore getting old, like Laura, which you didn't mention your age. And I know on SBG, they have you do that all the time. So like Laura is totally getting young. So I'm going to ask her, would you reveal your youngness, please?
Yes, I am 71 years young.
Oh my
And
gosh.
feeling better now than I did when I was in my 50s, for sure. Carnivore, I believe, is truly aging in reverse.
And that's totally amazing. And if you know Laura, like, okay, not only does she look fantastic, but she can kick anybody's butt on the pickleball court. She can out hike people. She just went to Italy and did a bike tour. Like, she is amazingly active. and doing so many things all the time. And I think that carnivore is a huge part of that. Would you agree?
Oh, I do. I do think so. I can't imagine. I was active before, but knowing how I felt, even in that activity level, I can't imagine 4 years later still feeling not only there, but better than there, better than where I was before. I do want to clarify, I do not kick butt on pickleball court. I don't want anyone thinking I ever put that out there, because let me tell you, did I have a bad game or two yesterday? So, but anyway,
You could kick my butt, okay, on the pickleball court.
maybe there, but I have incredible energy. I've always been a more energetic person, but now it's kind of like energy on steroids. And as Barb mentioned, I was just in Italy. We were there almost 3 weeks. Not only did we bike, but we did a lot of hiking as well. And just walking everywhere we went, every city we went to, we walked. Not only did we have a 6-day bike trip, but we had 8, 9, almost 10 days of just touring. We were walking, we were hiking. Everywhere we went, we walked. We didn't use a bus, we didn't use a car. And to be able to do that, and my friend is my age too. She's not a carnivore, but she is my age and she's very active. I just feel so good. It continues to amaze me, and I'm living my life, that I can feel this good all the time.
So you've always been pretty active. What was it like before carnivore? Like, how did you feel like your energy level was?
I've always been a little bit more energetic than many of my friends. I would make them tired just by matter of course. And one of the things they always said to me is, you don't need any more energy, but it doesn't matter. On carnivore, you get that. And it just happens. But it's energy without inflammation, energy without pain. So let's say I did a hike pre-carnivore, then maybe it was going to be 3 or 4 days before I stopped hurting from that hike. Now I rarely hurt after the hike, or if I do, it's for the next day. There's a little bit of soreness, and then you pretty much by day 2, you feel back to normal again. There were many times when I would never have thought that I could do pretty strenuous hikes back to back, but I can do that now. And remember, it's 4 years older than I was when I started. And, back in my 50s, I would not ever imagine that I would be doing these things now. So
In your 50s, did you ever imagine that you would just be eating carnivore foods?
no, although I've always been a little more meat centric. I was one of those people that was always, and I loved vegetables too. Don't get me wrong. It wasn't like I was a vegetable hater. I wasn't. I ate pretty much everything. There was probably 5 things I could think of that I didn't eat, and everything else I would eat and enjoy. But I was always a little more meat based. And that was always something I enjoyed. And I wasn't, a lot of women don't like the texture of steak. They don't want to chew. That wasn't me. My uncles always thought I had hollow legs and wondered where I put it when I could sit down and eat a good sized steak, even in my teens. But to eat this way now, it's just so simple. You don't have to think about it. You don't have to put the time and effort in. I used to make such elaborate meals, even just for myself, that would take me an hour to prepare a meal. And then you sit down and it's done in 15 minutes or 10 minutes. Now, when I'm hungry enough, I say, oh, I'll go throw in a steak, or I'll go cook this, or I'll go cook that. And in the air fryer it goes. And then you get on with the next thing you want to do, because you've wrapped it up in 5 minutes of cooking and maybe 20 minutes of enjoying your meat, and then you're on to the next thing.
Well, and you do a fabulous job of putting your cooking videos out there and using the air fryer and some other things. I know that's been very inspirational for me. And Laura inspired me to get a tasty air fryer, and I use the heck out of it.
It's
And I
true.
will say that my skills with everything and the smoothness, which Laura does think, I'm not there yet, but I'm trying. But man, an air fryer makes a great steak. It
It
really
does.
does.
Yeah. It makes dinner prep so easy and such a no-brainer. I never thought an air fryer would be a major part of my life or my kitchen equipment. And I did have one prior to the Tasty, but I hardly used it because it smoked all the time. I would here in Tennessee, because of having an internal fan system in my kitchen, I couldn't even use it in here. I would put it on my porch and cook whatever I wanted to cook. But with the Tasty, you don't have that. And it's so intuitive. I have two grills. I have one on this porch and I have one on that porch, and they hardly ever get turned on anymore because you could do it in this Tasty air fryer so easily.
Yes, and it's great, especially in the wintertime. We don't want to go out there and fire up the grill or if it's raining. I just think it's so easy. So Tasty, anybody from Tasty watching here, we're giving you a plug, a free plug.
I'll have Barb link my discount code in case you want to get one.
Yes, and I will say that they are a great company. Like I said, I use mine like twice a day, and I've had it for several months, and I had some issues. One of the brackets was loose on something. Anyway, I contacted them. They sent me a brand new air fryer. They didn't have to do that. It was so nice. They were super great. So go Tasty. Yes, I will put that and Laura's other info in the links. Okay, so in your introduction, you were talking about you were ketovore, but you were having trouble with the sweeteners. So prior to ketovore, can you back up some and just say, how are you eating and how did you arrive there before you moved to carnivore?
Absolutely. Great question, too, because it's probably what we've all done. I was a semi-active person in my younger years. I would walk with neighbors. This is when I was raising children and working full time. So you have a limited amount of time. And so I walk with neighbors. And that was about it. Oh, and then I joined Jazzercise. If any of you are old enough to remember Jazzercise, I was a big Jazzercise queen when I was raising children. I would do that, I think, once a week, and maybe we'd walk the neighborhood one or two other days a week. But let's face it, when you're raising your children and you have young children, and I had preteen children from my husband's first marriage who we raised, and then I had young children. So I had two very varied ages, lots of different things going on in their lives. My husband worked his regular job, a side job, and then he was also at the time a police detective, and he was working a rooftop burglary and going to finish his degree. So there were times when that man was never home. So it was me and four crazy kids and everything that had to be done. So, weight kept creeping up, creeping up, creeping up as the years went on. And when I was in my 50s, I think it was for my 50th birthday, my husband gave me a membership to a local gym and couple personal training sessions. And so that's really when I was already 50 years old, when my real health fitness journey began, I always say. But what continued to happen was 3 to 5 pounds every year for the next boop, boop, boop years just kept coming on. No matter what I did, no matter how I changed my eating, I tried gluten-free. I was one of those people that would never do Weight Watchers. I didn't believe in it. I didn't believe in paying someone else for me to lose weight. So that was a definite and hard no. But I tried the other things. I didn't do every diet out there. Like I know a lot of people have talked about a cabbage soup diet and this diet and that diet. One thing that I did do and had good success on earlier was Dr. Atkins diet. But once carbs came back into play, once you got to the point where you followed his program, eating just meat and fat, and we all lost weight, then he had you start adding carbs back in. And once that happened, didn't matter. The weight just came back on and continued to go on. So early 50s, I start at the gym. I go to the gym 3-4 days a week. And I would do this before work. So I'd be there at 5:30 in the morning and I'd do a cardio class or a spin class or a weight class. There were all different classes on the different days. And then it built to where I was there sometimes 5 days a week. In the meantime, I had decided I liked cycling. So I had a bicycle and I would go out and do that some. Now we're in my 60s. We've moved up to 60. And I was pushing a size 14. And still trying to figure out what would work. And nothing was working. So 2021, July, I was doing some internet researching and came across some different influencers and some different doctors and decided I would try low carb and see. Now, before that, I had stopped eating most pastas. I was eating things like the gluten-free pastas, which really are even worse than the regular pastas. I was trying not to eat bread. I would have it occasionally, but very occasionally. And I had stopped all sugars for years. But that I was still using what was considered to be better for you, low glycemic sugars. So July of 2021, I decide I'm going to try this low carb thing. And I went into it whole heart. I kept my carbs under 20 grams of carbs a day. And I did finally start to lose some weight. And I was eating mostly meat and a little bit of very low glycemic vegetables, but then making some of these keto treats that were supposed to be okay for you. And then, and that's when the sugar or the non-sugar cravings, as I call them, the supposedly good for you sugar cravings came in. And I made something for myself for Thanksgiving, something for Christmas, something for New Year's. So it wasn't like I was cramming the stuff in all the time, but I would make it. Nobody would eat it but me. So of course I'd have a little bit, a little bit, a little bit. And what I didn't realize was just how it was building within me until after the New Year's treat. And what happened is I went from being someone who really could have cared less about sweets. I liked them on occasion, but I really liked chips and salty things much better. That was my bag. Ooh, give me a bag of chips and some dip, and I am happy as a clam. So it went from I could eat one of these. For example, I made somebody's truffles for Christmas. So I could have one a week. The rest were in the freezer. I could care less. Then all of a sudden, oh, well, I'd like 3 this week. And then all of a sudden, I want 3 each day. And then it was 24/7. All I could think about was when I could have the next sweet thing. So sugar, natural sugar, never had that effect on the addiction center of my brain, but these low glycemic sweeteners did. And it was all I could think about. And that's when I went back to researching because I thought, what have I done to myself? So I had lost weight in there, but I think there's more that went to that story too. But now I needed to find some way to stop food noise. That had I had food noise in my regular life, a little bit. Those potato chips used to call quite a bit, but not like this. This was just overwhelming. And I couldn't believe I'd done this to myself.
Well, it's really not surprising because those sweeteners are actually so much sweeter than sugar.
Mm-hmm.
And there have been plenty of scientists who spend hours and hours and hours trying to make things more addictive. And that's part of it. And what a great marketing thing. Oh, here you got low glycemic and non-fat, and it's not sugar, and it's good for, it's natural, something like stevia. Oh, it's a natural sugar. Even allulose, which if people can incorporate sweeteners, I'm not hating on you. If you can do it, that's great. But for some people like Laura, and I think for me also, that's just a no-no. To me, those, if nothing else, are a gateway drug to sugar. They are so sweet and palatable that it's hard to resist. So what was the impetus to make you realize, hey, these sweeteners are not working for me. I need to do something different?
Just as I said, this constant nonstop thought of when can I have the next sweet hit? And so that's when I thought, I've got to figure this out because I have just undone everything good that 6 months has brought me. At the same time as it was bringing me good, it was bringing me bad. And I needed to figure that out. And that's when I found Steak and Butter Gang right before what they used to call the 30-day challenge is now the 90-day challenge. But they said that this priming protocol they had, whatever that was, would get rid of cravings. And so I thought, well, For $30 for a month, I can certainly afford that to get rid of this issue. And prayed that it worked, because I don't think of myself as a strong person in the sense of, oh, I'm going to do that, so therefore I say I'm going to do it, so therefore I will do it. That doesn't always work. The food noise calls. The food noise is often stronger. But since doing that priming protocol, the food noise has been shut off and has stayed away. And it's been, as I said, almost 4 years. So it was great.
As for those of who may not be familiar with priming, can you just discuss in general what that is and what it looks like?
Priming. So when you start with the priming protocol, it's basically the basis of it is 2 weeks of eating at least 3 meals a day till you're stuffed or comfortably stuffed, plus 2 snacks. And this, especially for most women, but even for a lot of men, is really foreign. And now remember, we're not talking all foods. We're talking meat, fat, anything animal based. So it's all nutrient dense food. And your body, what people don't realize, even people who are 400 pounds, is that they have been starving themselves their entire life. And when you eat nutrient dense foods, your body just reacts in a totally different way. For most people within that 2-week period, they don't want to look at another piece of food. And that's when we break off and start reducing what we've been eating. But again, you're still eating nutrient dense. The whole protocol at SBG is to go through priming, and then eventually you go through fasting, and the 90 days ends up with a 72-hour fast. But it's teaching your body to be able to do this, and you're coming at it from a totally nourished state. So even if you're someone who has fasted before, and I've heard this from many people who come into the community and say, well, I'm an experienced faster. When they do it this way, they can't believe the difference in the level of fasting that they achieve, how they feel through it. There's no white knuckling. There's no thinking about, okay, how much longer do I have? And I know there are people that fast and say they never feel that, and more power to them if that's the case. I was someone who I could go 8 hours without food because I was sleeping, and that was about it. You go through this whole program, but you're coming at it again. Your body becomes so nourished that it's just intuitive to be able to then extend your periods of not eating, which is so healthy for us also. This idea that we need to be eating all day long, all the time, is so contrary to human physiology and the way our bodies evolved. That's why we're all in the state we are in now, so many people with the obesity rate and the health issues. For me, I had little wins. A funny one, my eyebrows. They used to be, when I started this, I had to color my eyebrows. They were totally silver. And after 6 months of carnivore, my natural color came back and has stayed. Gray hair. I have very little gray hair. My stylist always comments, they're like, for someone your age, you have hardly any gray hair. Well, I used to have more of a salt and pepper look, but that has stopped. Spider veins is another good one to mention. I used to have a cluster of spider veins on my left calf. They didn't stop me from not wearing shorts. I always looked like I had a bruise, and it was just this cluster of spider veins. Those are almost all gone. Allergy issues. I used to always have to I had an inhaler. I had to be on allergy medication. All that has gone away. The last of that cleared after I gave up vegetables. So there was obviously something in those vegetables that was not agreeing with me. I did lose about 30 pounds in total on the program. Since then, though, I've put about 10 of that back on, but I've gone down 2 more sizes in my clothes. So even though I've gained some weight back, I have had the kind of body recomposition that I want. I have a lot of muscle for a person my age, and especially a 71-year-old woman. It's just unbelievable how it works. Carnivore is so life-giving. It builds muscle in you for so many people. Mental health, anxiety, depression. It clears all that. It's just one thing after another. Type 2 diabetes. I can't tell you how many people I've met that are no longer taking insulin, are no longer having to be on metformin and all these other drugs. Medications. I take nothing now. I didn't take that much before, but I did have certain things that I did take, and those are all gone. So it's so healing. It's how we're meant to eat. And I know Barb can agree with that because she has had incredible healing. I always feel like a pretender because I had little things and weight loss, but there's people like Barb who have had immense medical healing.
Well, and okay, I just want to step back and say that all healing is valid and the condition doesn't really matter because it is just as tough on some people to carry more weight or to deal with food addiction or mental issues. It's really hard to say, okay, this one is more important than this. I think it's all important that we can get to a point where we feel good, where we're healthy. And going back to the priming thing, and I'm going to ask you some more about that, but I know a lot of people have concerns about priming. Like, oh my gosh, you tell me to eat 3 meals a day and snacks. I'm like, hey, that sounds great to me. Give me the refrigerator and I'll go. But there are so many concerns about gaining weight and all of that. And I will say, women especially, and some men also, just over the years from restricting, because we have just been taught, hey, eat less, move more, that's how you do it, that our metabolisms have just tanked. And so I think the concept behind priming is not only are you healing your body, you're getting your metabolism up so that you can actually burn more calories. Ooh, I said the bad word. More energy, however you want to phrase that. I know calories are not a perfect term, but that's all we've got. I need to make up a word instead of that. I'll work on that, get back with you on what the new word for calories is. But I think that this priming process is actually getting our bodies back to where it needs to be. However, that is a scary thing because I think that initially some people doing priming may gain some weight. Will you just share about that, what your experience has been? And then I know you coach people and hundreds of people in SBG have gone through this program, maybe thousands. So what is your take on it?
Just from my own perspective, I did gain some weight initially. I put on about 8 pounds, but within, I'd say 3 weeks, I think it was before I started the second month of the calendar, that weight was gone. So initially, you may put on some weight. And what most people don't realize is, here again, even if you're 400 pounds, you might put on some weight doing this. But it's only till some healing begins and your body and your mind realize, wow, they're going to give me some real food. They're going to give me something that has nutrients that I can use. Then things level out and then they go back down. And there are some people that have put on like 20 pounds. That's unusual. But what we just tell them is there's a reason for it. And when your body is ready, that weight will start to come off. And that's what we've seen with those who have stuck with it. Even Bella, who is the steak and butter gal, if you don't know who she is, she came from, I think, 7 years of veganism. She no longer had a cycle. She had horrible cystic acne. And she decided she was going to try this during COVID of all times and started eating meat. And I think she said she put on, I'm trying to remember what she said. She put on maybe 20 pounds, 25 pounds, but you should see her now. She's as slender as can be. It's been 5 years, more than 5 years. I think she's almost 6 years in to carnivore now, but she's this tall, statuesque, slender, beautiful woman. No more cystic acne. Her cycle returned within 3 months. She had a lot of anxiety issues too, I know. She was at the time she was at Juilliard in New York being trained as a classical pianist, and she also plays classical violin. So there was a lot of pressure on her as a young person. She's only 28 now, so what was she then? It's all these things together. But so even though she put on 25 pounds, and she had to prime for almost 6 months because she had done so much damage with the vegan diet for the 7 years she was on it. So she primed, I think it was for 6 months, gained weight, lost weight, continued to lose weight, total body recomposition as well. We were talking last night about a member who has lost no weight. She went through priming. I think she's in her 3rd month of the calendar, and she has lost no weight on the scale, but she has gone down 4 sizes. So don't focus on the weight. It's not everything. And as I said, I lost 30 initially. I've gained at least 10 back, but I went down 2 more sizes while gaining that 10 back. What have I gained? I gained muscle. And that's what you want. And especially as you age, women especially, but even men, there's men that don't have enough muscle mass either. So that's one of the most important things you can have as we age, to starve off all the issues that you would have: balance, weakness in your muscular system, brain fog, all these things. Carnivore helps them all.
It really does. I think that people are going about it backwards. I think we want to heal from the outside in because we want to look great. We want to fit into our stuff. And that is the most important thing. And I have to agree with Ben Azadi, who says weight loss is a side effect of getting healthy. So I really think getting healthy first, nourishing your body, doing what's right for you, then the other will come. And for everybody, it's different. And that's a great point about Bella, because people look at Bella now and go, oh my gosh, she is beautiful. And she is. But they don't see Bella when she was struggling. They don't see what she went through. And she went through that process. And for everybody, it's different. And I think that that's important to note. It took Bella 6 months to prime. You primed for a few weeks. Different people, and some I've heard Coach Raymond with SBG say that you may have to go back through and prime again and do a gentle priming. So I don't think that there's a one size fits all. And I think people get really freaked out in the space about, oh my gosh, you have to prime and you have to follow this schedule. And I think SBG has set up a schedule, just kind of a general thing for people to follow, but it's not rigid. I was a member of SBG for a little while, and I just thought it was very interesting and very flexible in the way that's presented. So it's not a one size fits all. Plus, in the SBG community, there's that support for people going through it. So I want to encourage you. I'm just going to put a plug in for SBG. There's a lot of great communities out there. SBG does a really great job of really listening to the people that are in those groups and continuing to create relevant things for them and bringing different experts in and just continually improving it. It's just really a neat thing. And so, what's your experience been like working with SBG?
It's been very good. I just started with the team in April. Actually, it was after Meat Stock in May. So mid-May, I started with them as a team member. Before then, I had just been someone who stayed active in the community for the community, because in a carnivore lifestyle, of course, you have family that thinks you're nuts. You have friends that think you're crazy, and you're not running into too many people, that are eating the way you're eating or think the things you think. So community is so important, and just as important as finding a friend. And I have to say, I'm blessed that Barb is less than an hour away, but I have made other friends within the carnivore community that I have met either through SBG or through another platform that I've been on and off. I'll mention one friend who lives in Colorado. We just had another 3.5-hour phone call the other night. So we probably check in once a month, maybe once every month and a half. And it's always a marathon talk session, because we talk about all the things we've learned and what we've been doing and what we've tried. And have you seen this video? And have you read this book? I met her 3 years ago at a meetup in New Jersey, and we have been fast friends also since then. And we only see each other, if we're lucky, once a year at a meetup somewhere. She made it in for Meat Stock this year, so I was able to see her in person. But otherwise, we stay in touch on the phone. I got off on another tangent. What was my original question, Barbara? I apologize.
Oh, I was just asking about your experience with SBG, and I'm
Oh,
sorry. The high fat cats are either disgruntled about something I am doing or not doing, or just mad at each other because they just started brawling on the side.
I
Um,
thought I heard something down there. Okay, SBG community. So the reason I chose this platform is because, as Barb mentioned, I really think they do a super job. They bring in so many different experts every month. They have coaches that are available at every meeting. We have one retired doctor who works with us as well and is always willing to help answer questions for you or to guide you. We have a community that really stays connected. So there's chats in the platform that you can always put in what you're thinking, what you're doing, what you're concerned about. And if people have had that same experience, they're going to jump on, they're going to answer. The moderators try to answer. Some of the coaches are able to answer, but they also have their 30-day calendar or their 30-day program. They have certain experts that come in every month or every other month. Dr. Sean Baker, Dr. Elizabeth Bright, Rebecca Heichman, Dr. Kiltz. Trying to think who else has been in there. Dr. Tony Hampton. So all these people are available to you. You can post your questions or go on the live Zoom with them and raise your hand and get your questions answered. For what they charge $30 a month. I think they have a community that has just the most availability for different members. And I love being part of it. I'm just getting into coaching there. I've had one or two clients. I don't do anybody with extreme issues. If you need someone to help you stay accountable, to help you navigate carnivore a little better, then I'm your gal. I am a total trust the process person. And my mantra, trust the process because it will happen for you. So that's the kind of coaching I do. But again, we have coaches that have a lot more medical knowledge. And so if that's what you need, you have that option. Now that's not within the community. That's a separate thing. You would get connected with that coach and set up something. Same thing with me. But a lot of us, all the coaches are on all different calls throughout the week. So it doesn't mean you can't ask us a question when you do see us. And they also have a cool thing called Open Chat, which they think now they have. It's on Fridays. It's on Sundays. It's on Monday and Tuesday also. So 4 days a week now, you have different times where you can pop in. It's called Open Chat. It's 2 hours long, and you can pop in just kibitz. Tell people what's going on. Share where you're at. If you've had, we call them NSVs, a non-scale victory. You've had a victory. You're feeling blue. You're feeling like you're not doing well. You're upset by what somebody said. Doesn't matter. You come and talk about it. It's a place to just talk things out. And I think so many of the community members find that so helpful. We have people that never miss an open chat. They are there every day almost that it's available, and it really has helped them. So it's a great place to be. I didn't mean this to be a call about SBG, but I'm pretty passionate about what they've done for me in carnivore and what I've seen them do for the community at large. So I apologize for bringing it up so
well,
much, but at the same
no.
time, if you're I'm passionate about carnivore way of eating. I'm passionate about the community I belong to. So
Yes, well, no, and I asked you about it, and because I want to champion these communities. There are several wonderful carnivore communities, and SBG is one of those. And I've had the privilege of meeting Bella, and I know her vision and the vision of everybody on the team. And I know you talked about some of the medical coaching is available on the side. However, Friday nights live stream to anybody in whatever, don't have to be an SBG. Oftentimes, Alyssa is in there.
okay.
Alyssa is somebody I very much can relate to. She's also battling lupus, and just her knowledge and just weighing in on that, it's a great resource. So I just encourage people to go there. Again, there are other great communities too, but I do want to champion those out there because I think everybody needs to try a community and find the right fit. You may try a few different ones, and there's definitely no harm in that. Find something that really works for you, because I think that connection is just as important in your healing as eating the right foods. It's all part of it. That's all of how we heal and how we're designed to thrive. We need to be in that community. So you said something a couple of times that I can also relate to about people thinking you're weird and a freak and stuff. How has your family accepted your carnivore diet?
You know, surprisingly well. I have 4 children, and one son just eats his normal sad diet. That's the oldest. The 2 middle boys, the oldest middle, he used to follow a pretty low carb diet, and I'm not sure where he's at right now. I know things have changed a little bit for him, but he's in pretty good shape. My youngest son, he eats everything. He and his girlfriend pretty much cook all their own food. They use really clean ingredients. And then there's my daughter, who's the baby, and she actually eats what I'd say is carnivore, ketovore. She vacillates back and forth. My daughter was having a lot of issues with anxiety and panic attacks, and I convinced her that if she would just give this a try, I said, you don't have to do it forever, but if you give it a try, I know you're going to feel better. She really took it seriously, and she decided to give it a try, and she went carnivore initially, and the panic attacks subsided, and the anxiety, she got that under control. And I think she ended up losing about 35 pounds. But then she started to ease more into a ketovore. Right now, I think she's going back to full carnivore again because she's starting to have issues. She makes the decision to have this or that in some occasions, but so does her mother. When I was traveling in Italy, I was there for 3 weeks. There was no way I could stay totally carnivore. For one thing, I was on an organized bike trip, and they were controlling my food. I love the cat ears there. He's like, hi, Mom. Anyway, so you really couldn't. They're so cute. I couldn't stay full carnivore, but I am someone who's lucky enough to be able to moderate. And all I can tell you is that when I get back in the States, I can't wait to get back to the simplicity of eating carnivore. And did I have gelato? Yeah, I had gelato. Did I have some pasta? Sure, I did. Did I have some Italian bread? Yes, I did. But once I got back stateside, it was like right to Aldi's to buy a chuck roast to put in at my son's in the crock pot because I was staying there for a couple days. And I went out and bought a couple steaks to eat, and I bought some hamburger patties. And the simplicity of carnivore, I am always so excited to return to it and just get back on track. And I know I feel so much better when I am. Those little soirees into other food, that was fine for the time. But when I came back, was I feeling as close to 100% as I normally do? No way. Even though I had been on this very active vacation, I was feeling aches and pains in places I don't normally feel aches and pains. And that took probably a good week and a half to eliminate again of eating just carnivore foods.
Well, I think that's really important that people understand this isn't about being 110% carnivore and somebody's going to come and take your card away. And if you add carbs or not, or occasionally, what matters is how you feel. And being able to have an occasional treat like that, but also recognizing that for you, hey, that maybe wasn't the greatest thing long term. You wouldn't want to do that all the time because you're having aches and pains. And speaking of aches and pains, here's one.
Gorgeous.
But yeah, I think that's really important because, again, my shtick is that we shouldn't be dogmatic. We should be catmatic, which means we should be, cats don't care. Does this cat care what I eat? Well, maybe if she's trying to steal part of it. Yes, and she is definitely carnivore all the way. But for the most part, they're like, you do you do what works. And I think just right now, just vibes in the space, I think it's really important that people realize that, hey, we all need to do what makes us feel good and what makes us healthy in whatever age or state we're in. whether we're eating carbs or we're not eating, like all of that. I think it's just super important not to get focused on the wrong thing.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's just my 2 cents on that topic.
I do have to finish your original question with one response, and that's that my kids are happy that I feel as good as I do and have all this energy to do all the things I love and want to do. So even if they aren't carnivore or don't want to be carnivore, they're okay with me being that way. I still make them their Christmas dinner. And if I come in for Thanksgiving, I still make them the stuff they eat for Thanksgiving if I'm in town. They're all good with it. My mother's supportive of it. I've got a younger brother who has been on and off it the last couple years as well because he's had a lot of issues. So when he's on, I get a phone call and he has questions. And then when he's off, I don't hear from him again for a while. But nobody really gets in my face about it. And I have a lot of friends here who are non-carnivore, and they're all okay with it. They just know that if I'm one of the people that's included on dinner, they throw in some extra meat. And they know that I'll always bring an appetizer that I can eat and that they'll all enjoy. It's funny because husbands like the appetizers I bring because it's usually meat-based. I bring bacon knots. I make these skewers with cheese and pastrami or cheese and turkey. And they're always like, oh, we like Laura's appetizers. So anyway, so I can live well and do what I want to do as a carnivore within a good group of friends and loving family, and it's all worked out for me. Nobody thinks I'm too nuts.
That's fantastic. And it is funny how, although people are alarmed that we may be just eating carnivore, they always like the carnivore foods we bring. Everybody likes steak and short ribs and all that stuff. They don't have an objection to it until you tell them, oh, that's all you're eating. And then suddenly it becomes problematic to some people. I have a question that I like to ask everyone. And you've done several interviews and been in SBG and had lots of people ask you questions. Is there a question that you wish somebody would ask you?
Ooh. Well, yeah, this is a good one. Or I should say, this is something, it doesn't always come up, but I think especially for people who do work out, maybe it's something I like to talk about. Does that work?
It does. Oh, great.
Okay.
Yeah. Hey, you are the first person to just take that pitch and just go with it. Most people are like, what? What are you asking me?
So your question would be, how was your weight loss journey on ketovore? Let's go with that.
Okay.
Okay.
Laura, how was your weight loss journey on ketovore?
Well, I've got a funny story about that. And now it's not just about ketovore. It's really more about working out and chasing the cardio. I should say the question is really, do you believe in cardio? And let me tell you, I do not. And here's the reason why. When I went ketovore, so that same year, 2021, in the springtime, I was having this really bad pain in my left foot, and bad enough that I finally went to see an orthopedic doctor, and they did an x-ray. They couldn't find anything. He thought it was a deep tissue bruise on the bottom of the foot. So he gave me like this little funny pad thing. You put it in your shoe and you walk on that. And at the time I was still going to the gym 5 days a week and doing all these different classes. And I had really gotten into pickleball that year. And I was working with a coach as well as playing multiple hours every week. There were some weeks where I played 21 hours of pickleball in a week. I was hiking. I was biking. I was widowed by then. I had a good friend that I went out and did a lot of activities with because her husband doesn't like to do that. Still doesn't. That's the one who I do these Italy trips with and bike trips around the country. So we'd be out biking. So playing pickleball, the gym. I did some hikes that summer, and this pain in my foot continued. And the last thing I did, I had already been ketovore maybe only about 6 weeks at this time. And I had lost a little bit of weight, but not much. I was down maybe 7 pounds total. And I don't think that much because it hadn't been that long. In September, I went and did a hike with some pickleball friends, and we hiked at the Indiana Dunes State Park, and we climbed the dune and then had to come down the dune. Well, by the time I got done doing that, man, my foot was so trashed. I knew I had to go back to the doctor. I was in so much pain, I could hardly walk. So I go back. Finally, I said, you know what? We need to do an MRI and find out what's really going on here. So I had a stress fracture in my left foot. He told me I needed to be in a walking boot for 6 weeks. I could still drive a car, obviously, because my right foot was available, but I had to keep the left out of the way. But he said, no gym, no pickleball, no hiking, no biking, no nothing. And then that stress fracture wouldn't heal. And I ended up seeing him again in November. It was not healed. And they got me this crazy machine. I think it's called an Exogen machine. A lot of basketball players end up using it for healing. And it's a little machine you have to hook up for 20 minutes a day, and it somehow pulls the calcium right out of your blood and sends it to wherever this fracture is. But long story short, I ended up in this walking boot for 6 months. So 6 months going from someone who was constantly on their feet and constantly active and constantly doing all these things to someone who got to sit on a chair and swipe her iPad as she read book after book after book. And guess what? While I was sitting there doing nothing for 6 months, I lost almost 20 pounds. Doing
This is while
nothing.
you were on carnivore, though, but during this time, though, right?
I was ketovore until January. January is when I started carnivore. So I was not carnivore yet, but the foot finally healed in February. So I was 2 months carnivore when the foot finally healed. The important point is sitting on my butt doing nothing. And had I changed my diet? Yes. But this is during the time, most of that time is when I was tied into the keto treats too. So I continued to lose. I think I lost 12 pounds at the beginning, and then the rest of the weight came off with carnivore. No, excuse me, 17 pounds. 17 pounds total between when I started in mid-July with ketovore and when I started carnivore in January. I had lost that weight. But again, sitting and doing nothing, no cardio, no anything. So how does that work? So change my diet, yes, but at the same time, no exercise, you would think, and I was still eating. It wasn't like I wasn't eating. I was eating. So
Well, also no elevated cortisol. Your
yes,
body is in stress. And even though exercise is considered a good stressor most of the time, it still is a stress. And I think our body has a threshold. You can only have so much stress before your system goes, oh no, we can't do this anymore. We're just going to hold on. We've got to shut down. We don't have time to lose weight or
right.
do anything. We've got to protect you. So that's really interesting. And also in your weight loss, I don't believe you lost any muscle mass during that time. People would say, oh, you just lost muscle, and that's why.
Well, it was kind of funny because Christmas that year, so now I'm still ketovore. I was still living in Illinois, but Christmas Eve is when my kids and I get together, and I hadn't seen my daughter and son-in-law in a little while. And they, after like later in the evening, my daughter said to me, are you okay? And I said, yeah, why? And she goes, well, you just don't, Nick is concerned. This is her husband. She said, Nick thinks you're not telling me and there's something medically wrong. And so my face had gotten super thin and really kind of ragged looking. I mean, honestly, I'll admit it because my mom, I flew down to see her at the beginning of December, and she looked at me too and said, so is anything going on? And I knew what she was referring. I just knew because you can read your mom. Some of us can really read our moms. And I said, no, nothing's going on. What are you referring to? And she goes, well, you really have aged.
Thanks, Mom.
Yeah, I know. I'm like, that's a loving comment. No, I started laughing because I knew she meant it from a good place. And I did look kind of ravaged. And then to have my daughter bring this up too, I really felt what it was is I feel like I wasn't getting what my body needed. I was eating plenty of meat, but I guess I was eating lean. I guess that would be the best way to describe it. I was eating too lean. So when I got into carnivore, high fat carnivore wasn't really a term yet. That came a little bit later, probably around the 3-month mark of my journey there. But in the meantime, just starting carnivore began to change that in my face again, because I was eating all proteins, no vegetables. So I was getting more of the nutrients and more of the nutrition that my body needed. So that began to change. And then once I started to up my fat content, when the whole high fat carnivore thing began being talked about, that's when things really shifted. And I just started looking better again. I felt like the aging reversed.
Wow. And definitely it did reverse because you don't look that way now. You look wonderfully healthy and beautiful as always. We could just talk forever. What things do you have coming up? And also, where can people find you?
I actually will be leaving next Wednesday to drive to Tampa, and I'll be seeing you at Hack Your Health. I'll be there. And I don't know if I've had a chance to tell you this. There was a change in the SBG panel, so I'm actually going to be speaking at Hack Your Health this year. I'll be talking on the SBG panel and talking about carnivore and weight training after age 60. So I'll be there. I will be on the Hack Your Health cruise right after that. And I believe Barb and her husband will be there with us as well. So that'll be so fun and amazing. And aside from that, I'll be at Meatstock next year. And of course, I'll be at the Bozeman retreat, SBG retreat in Montana next 4th of July, 4th and 5th as well.
Yeah, lots of stuff coming up. And just extra plug for Meatstock, which is May 2nd and 3rd in Gatlinburg, Tennessee. Our mutual friend, Scott Everson, who introduced us, has put together a fabulous line of speakers.
Lineup.
Like, I mean, everybody who's anybody in the whole carnivore world is going to be there, plus more. Going to be amazing. So get your tickets now. We're going to go fast. It's going to sell out. There's no doubt in my mind that's going to happen. And already ticket sales have been huge, and it's 6 months away. So please do that. And again, that was such a fun event. To me, Meatstock's like a 4-day meetup, basically.
Pretty much. But you get all of this knowledge at your fingertips as well, listening to the speakers. And no one has ever had a lineup of speakers like this before. Scott has just done an amazing job drawing all these people in to become part of this. And this is going to be like no other. Even Hack Your Health, which is in Tampa and has been in Austin for a number of years, has not had the lineup of speakers that he has for next year. Aside from that, I'm on Instagram. I post different things. It's usually something I'm eating, something I've cooked, and I am on YouTube under the same handle, and you can find me there. I do some shorts on different carnivore issues and that, and I'm hoping to start doing some interviews, and I'll be interviewing this lady. She'll be one of the first ones. So,
Yeah,
because I think Barb has such an amazing story that needs to be heard.
And is it Laura Lovin Life? Is it laura.lovinlife?
It's laura.lovinlife, one word, .carnivore. But if you get the laura.lovinlife, I usually pop up because there's only one of me.
That there's only one. We have the original. And I guess, because I never really we talked about really, carnivore doesn't get old. It gets young. But do you think the carnivore diet gets old? Just quick answer.
Oh, no, it does not. It does not. I did kind of address it when I said, even though I ate off in Italy, I am always so excited to come back and be able, it's eating the simplest way to feel the best. Always.
Could not have said it more beautifully myself. Well, thank you so much. And I'm looking forward to getting together with you very soon to eat a burger. And then I'll see you at Hack Your Health.
Absolutely. Yep. We're having lunch later this week. So anyway, thank you so much, Barb. I really appreciate having me on.
Amazing. Thank you.
All right. Thanks. Bye-bye.